Hello, everybody. It's that time of the year. September is just round the corner, and we would have been looking forward to our annual pilgrimage to the green lawns of Jesus College in Cambridge. But this is not a usual year, is it? The pandemic has ensured that we cannot travel between destinations, especially international travel. Travel has become the first casualty in this year's completely unexpected turn of events. And so, Barry and Angela, while they decided that we could not carry on with the conference, have come up with this lovely idea of recording a video so that we can maintain some level of communication this year. I want to keep this video informal. This is not an academic or even a professional discourse on the topic that we are going to be talking about in any event, I hope, in a year's time. Before I come to the business end of things, by which I mean something about the topic that we would have been addressing this year at the 39th symposium, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how it has been in the pandemic in India. Here I am in Delhi, in India, in some form of lockdown, not a very severe one at this point of time. It has been a very frustrating time on the one hand, and at the same time, it has been a very challenging and a very innovative time. India as a whole, every part, every bit of it, went into a complete lockdown at the end of March of this year. For 6 weeks, we were told not to venture out at all. Shops and establishments of all kinds were closed. Since the middle of April, little by little, there has been an unlock mechanism in place. It is numbered lockdown 1, lockdown 2, and then unlock 1, unlock 2, etc. I believe, though we are not very sure, next week we may see the unfolding of unlock 4.0. The virus is still playing havoc around us with individual lives and keeping people away from each other. But we have had to develop new habits to deal with these unexpected problems. In India, the courts have been open all along in a virtual mode, that is to say by video conference. Initially, they were only doing urgent work, but slowly they are getting round to dealing with the regular lists. They have been working on different software platforms. Some use Zoom, some use Microsoft Teams. The Supreme Court of India is using a little known application called Video Mobile or Video Desktop. Each one of them have thrown up their own challenges, and we have been struggling to get used to the idea. In India, the connectivity itself in many places have been a problem. That is to say, the internet connections are not always the strongest, and even more fundamentally, electricity is often an issue. When I set up my apparatus so that I could attend a virtual court, initially, one of the main problems I had was to ensure that even when the electricity is disconnected because of a power shedding or load shedding, the internet connection is not affected. Because if it is affected, then it takes almost 4 minutes for it to be restored, by which time you have missed a significant portion of a hearing in court where every minute counts. We started, or at least most of us, I would say, started with a rudimentary skill set when it came to digital work, but have had to rapidly skill up. In my case, I have for the first time started dealing with PDF readers so that I can tackle my briefs online, and have had to dramatically up the digital databases that I subscribe to so that one can do some legal research without accessing the library. And I must say, by now, we are getting quite used to it. So that is the exciting part of the last few months. Frustration on the one hand, excitement on the other. Coming now to the topic that we would have been discussing if we were meeting in Cambridge. Let me make a few observations. Who pays for economic crime? Well, if you can get hold of the criminal, then, and if he is solvent, then surely he does. But he is rarely solvent, and quite often absconding. I would have been addressing this year a session on making facilitators pay. The deep pockets of the insurers, the banks, and others, the formal channels through which the proceeds of crime travel. As far as India is concerned, it has always been a problem that a large part of the economy, and certainly the part of the economy that facilitates economic crime, is the black economy. It doesn't go through the banking channels at all. So though we have a full panoply of legislation to deal with money laundering and the proceeds of crime in the formal channels of the economy, that is often inadequate to tackle economic crime. But what we have seen in the last few months, and indeed in the last couple of years, is a concerted attempt to reduce the black economy. The lack of mobility that we have seen in the last few months has increased the necessity to act through banking and other channels in the organized sector. I expect that this will go up in future, and the dependence on cash will have to necessarily go down. If the dependence on cash goes down, then the black economy will, to that extent, be obliterated. And one would expect it would become necessary for the proceeds of crime to travel through the formal networks. So I expect that this issue, which has been raised in the 39th Symposium, is likely to become more and more important as far as the Indian economy is concerned. While pockets may be deep, digging into them can be a problem. When the facilitator is itself in violation of the laws, then it is relatively easy to hold them accountable and make them pay for the proceeds which have traveled through their network. But where the facilitator's role is passive, does not itself amount to a crime, it becomes a little difficult, because they handle a lot of public money. In our effort to recover the proceeds of a particular crime, we might be throwing bad money after good. So therefore, it's not entirely clear whether it's possible to recover the proceeds of crime from the facilitators without jeopardizing the general state of the economy. Of course, it must be noted that all facilitators in India are highly regulated. The banks have always been regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. The insurance sector has come under regulation relatively recently. And several other formal sectors are slowly coming under regulation. So the regulator is often charged with the duty of detecting the possibility of facilitators unwittingly facilitating crime and by this process, one would hope that their involvement will be less. But regulation does not always work, as we know. The regulators sometimes have gaps in their systems through which cracks the proceeds of crime may still find its way to its destination. So these are some of the issues that one would have to look at, particularly in the context of India, when I go into this issue in detail in the coming year. Another aspect that one would like to emphasize is that India is not a net receiver of the proceeds of crime. India is not a popular destination to store or invest the proceeds of crime, unlike, let us say, the city of London or the various financial capitals of the world. In our case, the problem is of the proceeds of crime leaving the country. And therefore, the question of recovering the proceeds is a matter in which international cooperation plays a very large role. So that's another aspect on which I would like to speak and hear other speakers giving their views when, as we are hoping now, we meet in the September of 2021. Well, there's going to be no dinners this year. The lovely wines, the port, the desserts, the speeches, all that must wait. But here's to all of you. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you next year. Thank you.